Hey guys, and welcome to TIC Propaganda Podcast, Season 13, Session 4. So this is going to be kind of like the 11th hour podcast. I know it's Friday morning for some, it's afternoon for me. And I was thinking about actually recording maybe something longer, something, more explicit about every single country, go into details, and so on and so forth. But I'm going to try to make a shorter podcast and talk about the winners and losers of Session 4 and some of the things that really happened in this podcast. I'm going to make this different because usually people like you yourself, the people, listen only about your countries. So I'm going to stop for now going over individual countries and make it more generic, make it more philosophical, make it more political podcast, and actually reviewing every single countries of their strengths, weaknesses, and what they should do. Because really, the dialogue that I want to start and continue with the podcast are not being done the way that I want them to be. And I am going to actually move away probably from the individual countries and just do small things here, small things there. And you will see in this podcast the kind of new format I'm starting basically on the spot. Anyways, so we're gonna dive in to playing Great Britain as always, but we're just gonna go over the history of what happened in this session, some of the memorable wars and things like that. So, starting with Great Britain, let me change the camera. There we go. So, starting with Great Britain. So, Great Britain is a very also went Anglican just like last season. I'm not really sure why. It's making a lot of money. The idea is that it went expansion, offensive quality. So it's 1582. It's not too far yet. It's making good amounts of money, and the amount of money that it's making here is made because of Portugal and Spain lackluster trade. All the trade gets pulled basically into the English Channel. Sevilla doesn't match. And really it's because of the Ivory Coast that's being dominated. Last season we had a good agreement between JP and I and Portugal where it was basically split 50-50, 60-40, but most of the time it was split that way flowing into Seville. And a lot of trade actually came from the colonies. So yes, Spain does have a lot of colonies. It is pulling the trade, but for example, this is still a small amount of trade that's being produced in the New World, so it really needs some time to kick off. And this is the time when Spain really needs to sit down, buckle down, and actually build stuff, not only in Spain, but actually in the New World, so those manufacturers start pumping out trade for Spain to get. And because I'm not really sure how, even if both Spain and Portugal invest their resources into Asia, I'm not really sure how much trade they can pump without Great Britain taking it effectively, pretty much. And Portugal's been stuck in a perpetual war for a very long time. So in this situation, the real winner from all of this is Great Britain. Even if Great Britain doesn't really control Lubeck, it doesn't pull too much trade out of Russia, it doesn't pull too much trade out of Europe, it's still dominating the channel because there's no Netherlands. Because the Netherlands player kind of failed, and so Great Britain is the real winner from in Europe. And if we look at Europe as a whole, Great Britain is the real winner from this kind of peace and lack of building. I'm not really sure what exactly is happening. Maybe it's player skill, to be honest, because if we really compare the amount of money that was generated that's being generated in 1582, this game, to the amount of money that was being generated, as I said earlier in the podcast and discussions, in the 1619 save from last season. The 1619, of course, is making more money, but I think by the time we get to 1619 this season, it's going to be much more money being generated in the world as a whole, because a lot more money is being retained in countries. So the colonial countries of Great Britain, France, and Spain are not going to be actually making as much money because Ottomans exist and it blocks trade. Ruthenia exists in block trade. Sweden exists in block trades. And a lot of money is being retained in Vijayanagar, Marwar, Seleucids, and China. And I don't see, because of this quagmire that's also happening in Africa, I don't see really a lot of trade being pulled out from the old world. So the trade has to come from the new world. And the winner of this, even from mid to late game, will be Great Britain, because majority of the trade gets pulled this way, and majority of the money that actually made in late game is going to be in this old world. So from all these colonial powers, the real winner of just sitting in this position and building stuff is Great Britain. And their alliance network allies them with Spain and Portugal, but I'm not sure how long they can actually function in this alliance, because Spain basically needs to say, okay, I'm going to be dependent of Great Britain for money, or he has to fight it. And by fighting it, I mean landing troops in the New World and doing this wars. But the longer they wait, the more powerful Great Britain will become. So, I mean, it's pretty good. The force limit kind of. Let's see, Spain. I mean, Spain is also, yeah. I just don't see. I don't see Spain and Portugal being winners of this. Yeah, Spain is large, but it's a pretty fucking poor country. I mean, yeah, he's getting gold. Let's see how much gold he's pulling. 120, 100, so 220. Okay, so yeah, so there's a lot of treasure fleets coming on there, but still, this is pretty poor production and trade, and it's going to stay like that for some time. So the real winner in Europe is Great Britain. The second winner from the wars that happened was France. France definitely expanded into Italy, even though its ally Italy was destroyed. France fought some wars, didn't actually spend anything, and emerged victorious in Europe. It really expanded, and next age is going to be the French age. So France does have a chance to... Wait, what? Oh, he hasn't started filling out the ideas. If he catches up on tech, he'll be in a good position, but I actually wonder where he's going to take. So I'm not going to go and give hints. People can do their own thing from this. So there's plenty of stuff to eat. France is a dominant power in Europe. It has good ideas. It has amazing morale. Discipline not so much. The economy is okay. So the economy pretty much didn't improve at all from last session. So France emerged as a power in land, but in terms of ideas, in terms of economy, in terms of force limit, in terms of manpower development, it's a pretty weak country. So yeah, fairly weak. So Modorio's definitely out-deving France. So is Ruthenia. So France is actually, in terms of land, it's the winner, but in terms of power projection, not so much, especially with Prussia growing. So next age, it's going to be the French age, but he doesn't really have the economy nor the resources to do much about it. The big winner in Europe that I see is going to be Prussia. Why? Well, Prussia, I think, had like 30 or 40 ducats of income. It skyrocketed to 101. His force limit is up. Still pretty weak, but definitely up. He is drilling the troops, so he's still mismanaging resources. He's not really building. Why isn't he building anything? Even I say that they're winners. This is, oh my god. This is horrendous. And I mean, yes, I'm going to shit on Prussia again. Prussia grew, it didn't in size, but it could have done so much more, especially with this many ducats sitting in the bank. Again, moments like this, you turn off the drill, and what you do is you just turn this off, and you just build manufactories, you build productions, you build, I don't know, market, and then you build force limit buildings. Because 80 fucking troops, 90 troops, whatever you want to build, is not going to match, say, France or Spain or England. Even though it's a quality troops, it's still kind of lackluster. But still, Prussia did emerge as the victor of last session. It grew. It could have done much better, but really it did improve its situation a lot. So in this session is going to be very key for Prussia. Either it actually does something and develops, or it's going to be more of like the puppet of somebody in Europe or somewhere else. Because in this case, Prussia, unlike Sweden, actually grew, and the biggest loser in Central Europe from all of this was Sweden. Sweden, I don't care about the one loan. Income didn't really grow, I don't think. This grew by 20 or something like that. Yes, he's finally integrating Novgorod, but before he actually integrates it, it's not going to be much of a spike. In terms of development, I got it. Manpower. Some development, but not that much. I'm not going to say Sweden has going to have a very good transition into late game. Unless they're actually going to fight. I don't see who Sweden, Prussia, and Ruthenia are going to fight. Maybe, well, Austria, of course. So I think Austria is going to die. I think Austria is the ultimate loser in all of Europe right after Italy, because Austria gave up, doesn't get any money from the Ottomans. It gave Venice to the Ottomans. I don't, this alliance, it's basically Austria is now the Ottoman, I don't know, vassal state, kind of. I think that's a very good choice of wording. It's a vassal state. And I'm going to say that we're going to see some wars between Sweden, Prussia, and Ruthenia versus Austria, as they're going to get promises of land. I'm not sure what Sweden's going to get out of this. I mean, yeah, he expanded into the English Channel, but I'm not sure exactly 100% what they're doing. Speaking of what they're doing, I'm not sure why Sweden doesn't steer this trade from Lubeck, because he has, I mean, from the North Sea into Lubeck, because he can definitely be doing that, because majority of this trade is going to get pulled forward regardless, I believe. So you can experiment for that. But going back to the Austrian question. So Austria itself found itself in a position between France, Ruthenia, Ottomans, and a very small Prussia, and of course Italy. So it was kind of boxed in. And this is, again, several such seasons in a row, we see Austria looks big on the map, but without proper support, trade, and so on and so forth, it doesn't actually get anything. If we look at Austria in general, very poor manpower recovery, especially that you have. Oh, he went with Parliament. Yeah, that was that was horrible. Okay, so I mean, I would say that Austria, without proper Ottoman support, will collapse, and I think it's in the interest of France, who's also allied with the Ottomans. Maybe, I don't know. I don't really know, but the Ottomans is pulling a lot of strings. This is a very powerful alliance. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Ottomans. But Austria really lost his positioning this session. He lost territory, he lost Venice to Ottomans, and he kind of lost his powerhouse as a great power in Europe politics. His force limit, his economy is non-existent. It's better than French economy, actually. Oh boy. Force limit is good, but I don't know if he can field it because of the manpower reserves are so damn low. So, again, manpower development is going to be pretty damn poor. This is Vienna's nice. This is nice, but still being ravaged by wrong religion. I don't know, maybe even flipping to another religion would be good, like flipping to reform would be good for Austria. Staying like this isn't really helping his cause because he cannot become an emperor anyways. So I would just flip because a lot of his land is slowly flipping, and reformed in a way is a better I guess religion, because you can have war, morale of armies, a little bit of stability, goods produced, which is strong for Austria. also a defender of the faith. You'll be one of the only ones in Europe because you're reformed, and then also trade. If you could actually pull, just work with that. But I'm going to be very surprised that if Austria will remain alive, Austria will be the battleground, I believe. Maybe there's going to be a huge war between Ruthenia, Prussia, and Sweden, but I don't really see Austria being alive after this. I really think this block might lose, but maybe not. We gotta see about the Ruthenian, development. So, Ruthenia in a very strong position. Manpower development is kind of lacking still, but he has been doing it. He has been developing it. It looks much better than all of Europe. The manpower, it's up. It's still not as good because he has very high patriarchy. So he gets the manpower buff from the patriarchy, and also has boyars, but it's only at 2.2k. I guess the buildings aren't built. Oops. Oh. I mean, no. They are built. Force limit isn't. But I mean, Ruthenia at this point is probably one of the strongest countries in Europe. I think the only combined that can really stop Ruthenia is France, Austria, and Ottomans can do it. And they can probably do it. And the reasoning why is at this stage, Ruthenia is strong. First few battles they would win. But together they don't have the economic punch that the Ottomans, Austrians, and French have. And it could be like, for example, in the British interest to really weaken Sweden and Ruthenia and Prussia, because if, for example, the Ottomans says, "Hey, Great Britain, we'll like help you get Lubeck land," Great Britain can, do a lot of damage. Can really do a lot of damage to their economy, and then this is going to be an economic war, but also it's manpower war because both Ruthenia, Prussia, and Sweden, I think, have less manpower recovery than these three guys combined. So if there is a war, the sooner it happens, the Ottoman side will be an advantage, unless they wait till the next age and then France gets his musketeers. But even then, I don't think that Ascant is that good of a player to really make use of it. But again, Prussia isn't a very good player either. So it's going to be kind of like really either Ruthenia and Ottomans as commanders and generals need to carry this away. So, but like for Sweden, it could also be good if Prussia dies. So I don't know if Sweden would end like if Ruthenia also dies, because then he can take all this land. So if these two sides clash, I would put my money on the Ottomans. So, tag Tunis. What are we doing in Tunis? Manpower recovery low, economy low. I mean, they exist. Debug mode. RZW. Okay. So he has a little bit of debt, 1.8k. Ethiopia waiting to attack. Oh boy, dude. Ethiopia doing the fucking dirty. Okay, I see how it is. Ethiopia back attacking his allies. I'm gonna say the very big loser. Let me close that. By the way, the very big loser from all of this is gonna be Ethiopia. I think him turning on his allies is a very bad sign for this coalition, but really for Ethiopia. I think if Ethiopia attacks Batua, just planting these troops here and having them and just having this claim, it's a sure sign that Ethiopia is going to betray them. And he took it ahead of time. Manpower recovery is almost non-existent. Oh boy, that's a huge. He didn't develop anything. He took it so ahead of time. Unfortunate. But this is a good land to take and split. I'm going to make my prediction. Ethiopia is going to die this session. Batua is going to get hurt. Congo is going to be hurt, but not dead. But I think Ethiopia is going to die just because of his political dislocation to betray his allies. Unless the Ottomans really steps in and helps him. But I really don't see a point because he's sucking out trade. This trade could be also going to Alexandria, which can be going to the Ottomans. So I'm not 100% sure why he's trying to betray them. I think he missed his mark with the death of the Mamluks and then a couple other plays. He could have gone for Tunis or Batua earlier. But you betraying your allies in the middle of the war, I think it's a no-no in a lot of people's books. So out of Africa, the big losers are Portugal, and really all of Africa are losers. Even Spain isn't doing well. Tunis isn't doing well. There's like a total collapse of Africa. Too many players sucking out too many resources, and nobody really stable enough to get all the trade from Asia or get all the African trade. So they're really Africa is kind of a loser in my book besides the Ottomans. So now we've seen Russia form, which was pretty amazing, pretty great. But the real I'm gonna say that Russia forming isn't actually the winner of that is. Sweden and Ruthenia are because when he's colonizing Siberia, those provinces will start generating. First of all, he's colonizing Siberia. Second of all, he's completely locked in. So if he's colonizing it and there's a little bit of production put into place, all that trade is actually leaving Russia, being sucked out, and being placed in the hands of the Swedish and the Ruthenians. I just don't think Russia can retain his trade at all. Here is getting all sucked out from Samarkand. It's being evenly split, even though Seleucids can do a better job. And once globalism is embraced, he'll have the merchants to place it there. Any merchant can be placed here and divert more trade into Persia. So I think Russia, it's a good job for him for sticking in it, trying his best and doing it. But from the amount of only the Seleucids are really propping him up. His economy is not there. He does have money, but just no economy. There's some gold there, but I'm not sure what he can do. He doesn't even have a manpower recovery as Russia, which really hurts me. So maybe the winners of Russia forming, it's either Ruthenia who eats them, Sweden, or Cheng really, and Siberia being colonized, because this is hard land to colonize, but the Siberian frontier, it's perfect. It will add trade value and provinces to take and eat to whoever goes into him. So again, just to review, main winners are Britain. The main winner of all of Europe is pretty much Britain and probably Ruthenia for getting, and Ottomans, of course. So there's three winners. First, second, and third in my book, or second and third are kind of mixed, and I'll tell you why. The Ottomans did get Venice, but he as a country isn't strong enough at this point to actually transition safely into late game. He does have the standard economy, but I don't think it's going to grow from this. Many factories are almost all built out, but they could be built more and build workshops with the manufacturing. They all go up in value, and then the army buildings aren't built. But the most important thing, it's not very well developed at all. So this collapse, hasn't been just not enough development, especially in Egypt. And this is really good land to develop. The amount of colleges that were built is again very small. I don't. Ottomans are kind of strong now, but when their pips start to fail and the transition it gets pretty bad, it's gonna really show. So with him, he has there's a big military gap. Well, everyone is going up. The Chinese big military gap is 15. The Indians are at 18. And the Ottomans is 19. And Europeans also scale up. Eastern units get stronger and stronger. So besides him having, using the Janissaries do give a big punch, but I'm not 100% certain. How many Janissaries does he have? How well he used this time to really scale. And yes, he had the war against Venice. He got Venice. But I think, this size, it's very small for the Ottomans. He is number 3. And even though he's doing a good job at pushing the economy, it's not very well pushing the development of his country very efficiently. And once we go to Asia, I'll show you why. So if we're going to judge between the real winners of this last session, it was definitely, I'm going to say this again, the Asian hotbox, besides a couple of players. Tondo was a winner and loser. Japan recovered. The biggest loser in all of Asia, it's Miao. So first of all, Seleucids, Seleucids are clearly the winner because he formed fucking Seleucids, and, he has these amazing rulers. Attack XO1. But also, huge power to Dennis. I think the MVP of this session is clearly Dennis, because 1, he formed Seleucids. 2, he completely rebuilt his economy. And 3, he devved manpower, not as much again, so that's a little bit of disappointment. But again, everything could have done a little bit better, but overall, just the economy-wise, it's very, very strong. Eastern, he made a complete recovery. So what I would suggest for people like that, who are still learning the EU4 meta, you guys need to dev manpower, because in late game, especially in our mod, manpower is super buffed because of professionalism gives discipline. So the more professionalism you have, the more discipline you have, but the more manpower you produce a month, the bigger your slackens are, right? Like for example, 44, 404, right? So if I take, I'm gonna say Delhi, courage development, right? Not probably the best one. We'll probably do this, Sirhin is better. Courage development. Oh, he doesn't. Okay, so there's a negative modifier on that, as you see, because of development. There you go. I would like just develop this. Let's do admin 500. That. Yeah, 500. Mail 900. So as you see, the production is growing, right? And I'll show you why. So this was inefficient deving, okay? But this inefficient. But if we go to the slacken, it increased by 3,000 because I devved this province. So each slacken will give you 3,000 more manpower. And imagine this. This province, I don't think it has... Okay, it has a barracks. Does it actually have... Okay, this conscription center, if we... no, it's not conscription center. Is it this one? Yeah. So if we place it here, it's going to give you 4,000 extra manpower a year just for one province. So this is why you dev. And Seleucids also increased the monthly one by like 150. But also Seleucids have the manpower recovery of 20%, but it's still fairly low. Remember, Ruthenia gets 20% from Orthodox plus from the manpower recovery estate. The Ottomans get it. But if we go to Mewar, for example, Mawar has 2.046 manpower recovery without the estate, right? So there's no estate there to give that bonus, and that's going to just keep growing. And the way we can actually test this, how far ahead Mawar is from other countries, if we give Mawar quantity, oops, I shouldn't have done that. That was wrong. That was a mistake. Quality, I'm going to go for quantity. Oops. And this national manpower, no. But this one, manpower recovery speed, 20%, right? So 20% is like an estate. So if we look at the total manpower, we're going to see what Mawar can do, what manpower recovery Mawar can do versus other countries who have this estate. 2.8K, right? So in this case, Mawar is the most manpower developed country in the world. So when you actually probably match it with industrial, as I had it, you get this, you get this, you get this. Okay, it's actually now at 3,000 manpower recovery, right? So this is what quantity will do for Mawar when I take it next. But what I'm trying to say is that this manpower recovery is there to show you how ahead some countries are versus others, right? So if we take, like, for example, Mawar, and I'm going to take Encore because Arrestin also develops. He's at 2.6. Yes, he has quantity, but nevertheless, he actually started develop and he actually has this as well. Ooh, okay, never mind. So Arrestin is also being a little bit undeveloped on his total manpower, so it's very interesting. So what I'm trying to show you guys is that if you want to have both discipline for professionalism and big slackens, you have to develop manpower. And session after session, season after season, I keep saying this over and over again. And so the big winners in this really is Seleucids, Mawar, Encore, and Qing, because all of these countries are deving manpower. And so when the time will come in Asia, Russia's not going to be able to hold. Vigi is going to be dependent. Miao is going to absolutely collapse, I think, next session because both Qing and Encore will eat him. Mawar will probably want to eat him as well. Japan will probably want to, jump on all that as well. So I really don't see why I don't understand why people don't learn this lesson season after season. And I'm personally getting tired of talking about it. That's why I want to step away from all the development mistakes that they're making, because people don't learn. People don't want to listen. To me, it feels every single podcast, it's just pointing out the people's mistakes, but then they do it next season, or they even do it the same session. I've been talking about manpower development for, since the beginning of this podcast, but yet here we are, season 13, we're still talking about it, guys. And it's a little bit disappointing to me, really, that there's only a few. I'm really happy that Dennis made this huge improvement from last season, and he's doing it. But really, the only people who are really deving manpower is Ruthenia, Seleucids. We can actually probably look at it. Manpower, tag, Turk. There you go, guys. Ruthenia. Okay, Spain, I forgot Midori. Spain. We have some provinces in Batua, Encore, Mawar, some in Miao, and Qing. Yeah, that's about it. Right? This is about it. So when we get closer and closer to taking, the next military idea group of actually having the economy support long wars, I'm gonna bet my money this season, unless there's a huge consolidation in Europe and people actually improve, the real powerhouse of this season will be in Asia. Europe is always late game. Europe is always stronger because of better unit pips and better economy. In theory, because the trade flows to Europe, but from the amount of economies, from the number count now, development count, econ count, whatever, manpower recovery. I'm going to argue that this season we're just going to have a super strong Asia. Maybe duking it out, maybe hotboxing, as Asia always does. But I am kind of disappointed in Europe this season. Honestly, I expected Ruthini to perform a little bit better. Ottomans, I think, as a player, he did a good job, but last few sessions he had time to do it, and he doesn't follow the advice of development. Spain, understandable in wars, and it's kind of understandable because there's a player in the middle that kind of fucked it up for a lot of times, a lot of players, and France, it's kind of, I don't know. So overall, I think we're progressing nicely. Overall, as a season as a whole, we are expected to be playing better than previous season. But on a micro level, people need to start thinking about the future improving as a group, because then we're always going to have this disproportional imbalance of countries and regions and alliances, because people don't want to improve on the individual I guess they don't want to improve themselves as individuals on an individual basis, right? And this kind of hurts a little bit, because I've been doing this podcast a lot to help people improve. But people say, yeah, this is very, very, very good. Maybe I'm learning something, but you're not applying it. So I'm gonna probably next few podcasts, I'm gonna step away completely from country development, and I'm just gonna talk about the politics of it all, because this is, in my eyes, this is a little bit of a letdown that I actually waste my 1.5, 2 hours doing this, and I'm gonna use the word waste because there's absolutely no improvement from several of the players, and a lot of the players is that they take on some, but there's no on others. I'm a little bit disheartened, so I'm going to change the nature of the podcast and then just do kind of like the news, what happened in wars. So hopefully this week I will also do recording. I think I fixed my computer problem while I was lagging last week, so I'm going to record a lot more. Yeah, so we'll see how the propaganda podcasts will be next session. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I guess I did. Bye.